Welcome to the darker side of history. You're 12. Not quite a woman, but far from a girl. Your fingers tremble as the bitter wind howls across the deck of the ship, slicing through your silken sleeves. The salt stings your eyes. You've never seen England, but it doesn't matter. You are not here to see. You are here to be seen by a king who has no room in his heart for you. The sky above is as gray as the sea below, and your name, Isabella of France, already feels like something being sold, not something owned. You might flinch. That's the point. If this kind of raw historical storytelling moves you, go ahead and like the video and subscribe. No fluff, just facts and fear. Tell me where you're watching from, especially if you're alone. Now, brace yourself. Let's walk into the shadows. You dock at Dover, the salt still crusted in your throat. The year is 1308. Your new husband is King Edward II of England, a man 10 years older and impossibly distant. You don't know this yet, but his heart belongs to another, Piers Gaveston, his beloved companion, his obsession. You're led like an honored guest, but treated like an obligation. The courtiers smile, but their eyes sweep over you like dead leaves in wind. You are crowned Queen of England at Westminster Abbey. But the streets outside stink of rot and unwashed bodies, and inside you feel it. The chill of being watched, studied, judged. The gold of your coronet bites into your scalp. Historians note that at your coronation feast, the king sat beside Gaveston and gave him all the gifts meant for you. It was a scandal then. It still drips with insult now. That night, you are not alone with your husband. The door closes. You hear laughter through the stone walls, deep, masculine, private. You lie beneath firs that feel colder than the river, Thames, and you begin to understand. You are not a bride. You are a political token. Isabella of France, daughter of Philip IV, Iron King of France, sister to 3 future kings. Bloodlines soaked in power, strategy, and steel. You were trained for diplomacy, not abandonment. But what happens next isn't a slow fall. It's a steep, gut-wrenching drop into humiliation. Gaveston dresses himself in purple robes, colors reserved for royalty. He mocks you at court, impersonates your voice, mimics your walk. You burn with shame. You try to speak to Edward, but he barely lifts his gaze. There are reports of him ignoring you entirely, even as you sit beside him on the throne. The people murmur, nobles whisper. They don't pity you. They pity the crown. One chronicler called you the fairest of the fair, but your beauty means nothing when your dignity is crushed beneath the boots of court favorites. A fringe account, long dismissed but now resurfacing in some historical debate, claims Gaveston once took a jeweled brooch from your hair and gifted it mockingly to another man. Whether that's true or not, the message remains. Your crown is slipping, and you're still just a child. England's barons grow restless. Gaveston's arrogance turns their patience to rage. They demand his exile. Edward relents, then secretly recalls him. You watch it unfold, powerless. You are queen in name, shadow in function. Your father, King Philip IV, sends envoys to complain. Even across the sea, France smells your disgrace. You clutch a rosary at night, whispering prayers that feel more like questions. Does God hear a queen who is invisible? In one letter, you write about missing your homeland. But it's what you don't say that aches louder. You miss being real. You miss being seen. And still, England churns with unease. The land is bled dry by famine. The coffers rattle empty. War simmers with Scotland. But in the gilded halls of your palace, only one war matters. The one between the king's pride and your silence. Here's your first victory, but it tastes of ash. In 1312, Piers Gaveston is hunted, captured, and executed by barons who've had enough. Edward's wails echo through chambers for days. You sit beside him, untouched, unreadable. You don't smile, but a flicker of breath returns to your lungs. For the first time, he sees you, not with love, but with fury. Historians still debate your role in Gaveston's downfall. Some claim you played the innocent. Others say you whispered into the right ears. There is no proof, only suggestion. But make no mistake, you learned something crucial. Power doesn't come from titles, it comes from timing. You give Edward an heir, Prince Edward, born 1312. The court cheers. The people light torches in the streets. For a fleeting moment you are no longer a pawn. You are the mother of England's future. And yet, in that same cradle rests your next chain. Because now, your usefulness is sealed. England knows your name, but few know your mind. The French call you the she-wolf. English texts paint you as cunning. Some romanticize your sorrow, but inside you, a transformation is already hardening. What began as betrayal is now evolution. You are no longer waiting to be loved. You are learning how to endure, and while the king turns to new favorites, less flamboyant, equally corrupt, you bide your time. You learn the court's language. You master the silences. Your smile becomes armor. Your words, surgical. Your body, a weapon of diplomacy. No one sees it yet, but you are preparing to strike. In the stony quiet of your private chamber, you sometimes trace the fabric of your coronation gown. At 12, it was too large. By 20, it is a skin you no longer wear. And in the corridors echoing with the ghosts of laughter not meant for you, you walk taller. You were crowned a queen. Now, you are becoming something more dangerous. A widow in waiting. A chessboard of vengeance. And the king? He doesn't even realize he's already begun to lose. The castle breathes around you, but not for you. Its stone lungs exhale warmth, only for those who matter. And you, Queen Isabella, still live in the cold spaces in between. The velvet-lined corridors reek of musk, mulled wine, and the oily presence of men whispering deals behind goblets. Every glance at you is measured, every smile coiled. You're no longer a child, but the game hasn't changed. Only now the rules cut deeper. The king has replaced Gaveston, not with one, but two new favorites. The Despensers, father and son. Hugh Despenser the younger, in particular, oozes ambition and disdain. He wraps himself around Edward like a serpent cloaked in pearls. Unlike Gaveston, Hugh is cunning. Where Piers mocked you in public, Hugh starves you in private. You're denied funding. Your household staff shrinks. Your travel is restricted. You, a crowned queen, beg for basic expenses. Historians cite royal records where your annual wardrobe was deliberately reduced, your jewels seized and reassigned. It's not subtle. It's war cloaked in etiquette. The court turns into a machine, and Hugh Despenser is the hand that feeds it. Nobles begin to disappear, exiled, imprisoned, executed. Lands are confiscated. Voices silenced. You watch as England buckles under tyranny. But you say nothing. Not yet. Edward grows stranger. He's drawn to Hugh in a way that feels less like passion and more like possession. You see it in his eyes, the way he watches Hugh's lips move, the way his fingers linger on Hugh's shoulder just a second too long. And yet, even behind closed doors, you are treated as the intruder. You were married to a king, but you sleep beside a ghost wrapped in another man's shadow. The people grow restless. There's talk in the taverns, rumors in the markets. The queen is a prisoner in her own palace, some say. Others go further. She walks the halls like a living ghost. And perhaps the most bitter of all, she smiles too often for someone so unloved. You begin to gather information, not just gossip but patterns. You learn who's disgruntled, which barons resent dispenser, which knights are loyal to the old order. A fringe tale, often dismissed but never disproven, tells of you paying a washerwoman to smuggle out coded messages in bundles of royal linen. Whether true or not, it fits. You're a queen with no army, no treasury, and no open allies. All you have left is secrecy. Historians still argue whether your silence during these years was strategy or survival. Some say you stayed docile out of fear. Others argue you played the long game. The truth, as always, likely lives in the murk between. What is certain is this. While Edward clings tighter to dispenser, you begin to drift toward the only place that still offers you leverage, your bloodline, France, your homeland. Your brother is now King Charles IV. And when diplomatic tensions rise between England and France over control of Aquitaine, it is you who volunteers to mediate. It's the perfect pretext, an innocent journey home, a diplomatic mission. But when your ship docks in Calais, you are no longer a queen out of favor. You are a woman reborn in the land that first taught you power. You do not come alone. Waiting in the French court is a man whose name will be whispered beside yours for centuries. Roger Mortimer, once a nobleman, now an exile. He escaped the Tower of London, fled to France, and lives like a hunted wolf with the scars to prove it. You meet in hushed corners. There is no poetry to it, no courtly romance, just shared hunger, shared fury, shared purpose. What happens between you and Mortimer is the stuff of legend, scandal, and speculation. Some say it was love. Others say necessity. Most agree on this. It changed everything. Together, you hatch a plan. You will not return to England with apologies. You will return with fire. You begin to gather support. Exiled barons, mercenaries, disgruntled allies, and the most powerful symbol of all, your son, Prince Edward, now a boy of 13. You send for him under the pretense of diplomacy. When he arrives, he stands by your side not as a pawn, but as a weapon. The English crown now balances between two forces, a corrupt king and a queen who has tasted betrayal and found her spine. You stitch armor into silk. You train in silence. You wait for the moment the wind shifts. It does, on a cold day in 1326, when your small force sails from France and lands at Orwell, Suffolk. The invasion is not mighty, but it is enough, because England is tired, the people are angry, and your name, Isabella, Queen of England, has transformed from a forgotten whisper into a rallying cry. Barons flock to your banner. Towns open their gates. Edward and Despenser flee westward, their power crumbling by the hour. You pursue them, not with hesitation, but with purpose carved into every hoofbeat. This is no rebellion. This is reclamation. The chroniclers write of your eyes during this campaign. Cold, determined, almost divine. You ride beside Mortimer, cloaked not in royal velvet, but in steel and silence. This is your battlefield. Not a ballroom, not a marriage bed, but a war for your very name. And yet, even here, you understand the cost. You have not come this far for blood, but there will be blood. You can already smell it, because what waits at the end of this campaign isn't just a fallen king. It's justice, and revenge wears a crown of its own. The hunt ends in a marsh, wet with November rot. You stand under a slate sky while soldiers drag Edward the Seine and Hugh Despenser from their hiding place near L'Entresant. Edward, no longer regal, weeps into the folds of his cloak. But it's Hugh who stares at you with venom, even as he's bound in chains. He knows what's coming. And you, Isabella, do nothing to soften the blow. You don't speak when he's tried. You don't blink when they read the charges. Treason, theft, corruption, sodomy. A grotesque list carefully curated for maximum humiliation. Historians note the theatrical flair of the proceedings, how Hugh Despenser was stripped, how parts of his execution were exaggerated, perhaps even invented. Some say his genitals were severed before death. Others say that was only written to thrill the rebels. You aren't in the square to watch it, but you feel it. Every scream, every cheer, every squelch of English justice echoes through your spine like a bell toll. They hang his body in 4 parts, one at York, another in Bristol, the rest scattered like a warning. You don't flinch. He starved you of dignity. You fed him to the wolves. Edward fares better. If exile can be called mercy, you give it. He's imprisoned in Berkeley Castle, watched day and night. A monarch in name only, stripped of sword and seal. But a king, even dethroned, is dangerous. And the longer he breathes, the more England remembers him not as a failure, but as a man wronged by a woman. Mortimer urges you, finish it. And here, history fractures, because what happens next is drowned in mystery. Some say Edward dies of illness, others whisper of assassination, but the most disturbing theory, still debated by scholars, claims that he was murdered with a red-hot poker, inserted rectally, so there'd be no marks of violence. A punishment soaked in symbolism, revenge for his relationships with male favorites. It's never been confirmed. But the image is unforgettable, and perhaps that's the point. You don't write the record, but the silence in it screams your name. With Edward gone, your son, Prince Edward, becomes King Edward III. A boy with your eyes and your name at his back. England breathes again, if only for a moment. You rule as regent beside Mortimer. Not, in theory, in truth, and for a while it works. You wear power the way you once wore silk, tightly, deliberately. You reform laws. You rein in corruption. You even begin restoring royal finances. People cheer you in the streets. Ballads are sung, tapestries woven. For a fleeting season, you are the savior of England. But power does not share well. Mortimer changes. Where once he stood behind you, now he walks ahead. He accumulates titles, lands, privileges. He sits at your side but speaks like a king. The same whispers that once targeted Despenser now circle him. And through it all, your son watches. Edward III grows tall. His voice deepens. His eyes sharpen. He sees the man who commands his mother's trust, and possibly her bed. And he seethes. You don't notice. Or maybe you do. But believe blood will protect you. You forget that crowns carve their own paths. It happens in the dark. October 1330. Nottingham Castle. A secret tunnel. Your son, now 17, leads a midnight coup. His men storm Mortimer's quarters. Your lover is dragged from your side in his nightshirt, accused of treason. You beg for his life. You fall to your knees. And for the first time in years, someone else tells you no. They hang Mortimer. No ceremony, no trial. His corpse swings in the morning wind as a boy king solidifies his throne. You are spared, not for innocence, but for mercy. Your regency ends that day. The Queen becomes a relic. Edward places you under comfortable house arrest at Castle Rising. Not a cell, but not freedom. You are allowed servants, a chapel, and gardens. But no real court, no true audience. For the next 27 years, you walk among roses and ghosts, and England forgets. You fade into the mists of history. Chronicles focus on your sins, your affair, your vengeance, your fall. They whisper, she-wolf of France, a name barbed with venom. They write you as villain, temptress, traitor. Few mention you were married at 12. Fewer still remember you were crowned before you bled. One fringe tale insists you spent your last days writing confessions in code. Another claims you took a vow of silence in memory of Mortimer. Most agree on this. You died in 1358, your final breath quieter than your reign. But perhaps the strangest footnote comes centuries later, when your coffin is opened during renovations. Inside is a body wrapped in cloth. Yes, but clutched in its arms is another object entirely, a small withered heart in a leaden case. Was it yours? Mortimer's? A symbol of penance or of defiance? No one knows, and no one ever will. You linger in Castle Rising, year after year, as England spins forward without you. The rooms grow colder, the hallways quieter, the roses in the garden blooming, and dying with no one left to care. You walk alone now, except for your women and a few distant cousins who visit out of obligation, not love. There is no throne, there is no crown, there is only time, sharp-edged, merciless, and slow. The walls speak if you listen. Stones remember what flesh forgets. You once plotted within chambers like these. Now they cage you. And though your son allows you silks, firewood, and prayers, he never allows you London. Never court. Never politics. You are an exile in all but name. The official records say little. Some years note your expenditures. Others, your correspondence. But the true weight of this captivity lies in the empty pages. What isn't written, what you no longer say. It's here, in this stone womb, that you begin to unravel. Your meals are eaten in silence, your letters intercepted, your memories sharpened to points. You see Mortimer's face in candle flames. You dream of Edward, your husband, his eyes full of sorrow, his voice just out of reach, and sometimes you whisper to him. A bizarre report survives from one monk who visited the castle in 1347. He claimed that you insisted Edward II was still alive, that he was living in Europe under a different name, hidden by monks, and waiting for the right time to reclaim his throne. The claim was dismissed then, and still is by most historians now. But the story has a pulse. It won't die. Scholars still debate the so-called Fichi letter, which seems to confirm your belief. Whether it was forged or real remains unknown. Did you believe it, or did you need to? It doesn't matter. Hope, when starved, becomes a weapon. And England, your England, no longer remembers the girl queen who arrived in silver brocade. They remember the traitor, the harlot, the she-wolf. Your enemies survive in stone statues. Edward III builds a golden age. Trade booms. The 100 Years' War ignites. But no one carves you into the abbey walls. No stained glass bears your likeness. You are a gap in the dynasty, an erasure. And yet, there are fragments. A letter survives, signed in your own hand, in which you petition your son for more candles, more books. Your script is elegant, but faltering. You end the note with deference. Your humble mother, Isabella. He grants the request, not warmth, not affection, but candles. It is winter when the sickness comes. You feel it first in your bones, then in your breath. Something wet and heavy in the lungs. Your women try herbs, prayers, the same remedies you once administered to your own mother. None work. Your body begins to fail. They say you took communion daily near the end, that you sat in the chapel's frozen pews wrapped in wool, whispering verses alone. One servant claimed you kept a portrait of your son on your bedside table. Another swore it was Mortimer's ring that you gripped during your final hour. Your death is quiet. There are no bells, no parade, no public mourning. But something strange happens at your burial. You are interred in the Franciscan church in London, not far from your old palace. The coffin is sealed, the name etched simply, Isabella, Queen of England. Nothing more. But inside, clutched to your chest, archaeologists later find something deeply unsettling. A heart, encased in lead, dried, preserved. Not yours, not your son's. It's believed, though never confirmed, to be Edward II's. His actual heart. His body buried at Gloucester, yes, but his heart stolen, hidden, held. Why? Some say it was guilt. Others, love. Still others believe you feared his soul was cursed, and thought to purify it by guarding it even in death. Medieval theology often entwined the heart with penance. But this silent choice, speaks louder than any chronicle. No one ordered you to do it. You did it yourself. And with that, a thread snaps. Because for all the monstrous things they've called you, history also forgets what they made of you. A child bride, a silenced queen, a woman surrounded by violence and used like currency. You were betrothed before you could read. You gave birth before you could choose. You were blamed for being too quiet, then too loud. For obeying your husband, then betraying him. For being a wife, then a widow, then a ghost. In 2010, a symposium on medieval queenship revisited your life. 1. Historian argued you were a scapegoat for male failures. Another suggested that your regency marked the most successful female rule in England prior to Elizabeth the Mercer's. Neither theory won. But they both stained the paper. They both tried to name you something more than a villain. Maybe that's all you ever wanted, to be seen whole. Not as the she-wolf, not as the lover, not as the traitor, but as Isabella of France, daughter, mother, prisoner, queen. And still, the shadows